Well, happy Friday to you from the 9 News Weather Center. I'm Weather Impact Team meteorologist Chris Spears. We're going to walk you through kind of a deeper dive to the forecast. If you missed the broadcast at noon, we have some more for you here. Let's start off with your weather headlines, and a couple of headlines. This is very typical for spring in Colorado. You know, if you've lived here for any length of time, spring means anything from snow in the mountains to possible wildfire conditions on the plains, and that is exactly what we have in store. So fire danger is elevated. It will peak a little bit on Saturday and possibly again next Monday. Snow comes into the high country tonight and it will last into Sunday morning. So we will look at the mountains a little bit closer and help you plan any travel you may have. Next week, a big warming trend is on the way. Some unusually warm weather for the late part of March and taking us into early April. And I'll show you that here as well. Let's start off with the jet stream. This is a very busy jet stream. It's been parked over the lower 48 for several days. Multiple low pressure systems riding along that jet with some highs interspersed in between, and that is why it has been so windy across the region. Another storm passes north of Colorado starting late tonight, but mainly during the day on Saturday, and this is why we have mountain snow in the forecast along with the windy conditions on the plains. Notice on the left side of your screen that blue H spinning clockwise. It is a big ridge of high pressure building over the eastern Pacific, and that will move inland as we go into next week. And that is going to really change things around here with some very warm weather. Let's focus on the mountain snow that starts tonight around midnight. So if you are going to the mountains, maybe you have a place to stay up there, a second home, and you're planning a little weekend getaway, you'll be okay tonight. But it would be difficult anytime after midnight as that snow comes in and really picks up in intensity by Saturday morning. In addition to the snow, it'll be windy. We may see some 40 to 60 mile per hour gusts at times. It will not be widespread, but pockets of gusty conditions, especially on either open terrain or exposed mountain passes, and that will create some winter driving. Because of all of this, the National Weather Service has issued a winter weather advisory. This is for all day Saturday, starts at midnight. This includes all of our mountains along and north of Interstate 70. We could see 5 to 12 inches of snowfall. The higher totals will be above 10,000 feet and especially above tree line. And again, we are very concerned about that wind. Let's roll this futurecast. It'll be quiet tonight. So as I mentioned, if you need to do some travel, you are good to go. Looking toward midnight, that's when we'll start to see snow developing, and by sunrise on Saturday, it'll be widespread, locally heavy at times on that I-70 corridor and routes such as US 40, even 285 going into central Colorado. You'll run into some snow likely once you get up around Kenosha Pass. Our southwestern mountains, although you do not have any advisories in effect, you have a little bit of snow in the forecast. Accumulations down there will be on the light side. Off and on all day Saturday, the threat for snow. Do want you to look at the the right side of your screen around the word Burlington. You see those little green spots? We could see a stray shower or thunderstorm pop out on the eastern plains during the day on Saturday with all of the instability in the air and a lot of wind energy in the atmosphere. As we roll into Saturday night and into Sunday morning, the snow will quickly turn off. And as we look toward the noon hour on Sunday, outside of a stray snow shower somewhere in the higher elevations, will be on the quiet side as we see the weather pattern shift to a long stretch of dry and warm weather. Here's your snowfall forecast. The totals you see for the cities and mountain communities and towns on the lighter side. In the central and northern locations, we'll see a lot of 2 to 5 inch totals. If you recall with the winter weather advisory, it was for up to a foot in spots. That will be higher locations above tree line. Some of the west and northwest facing slopes will take the brunt of this wind, and so that would be some of the locations where we could see some potentially higher totals coming in. All right, that's the snowy side of our spring weekend, the first full weekend of spring 2025. Here's the other side. It's the eastern plains. We will be quite windy. We're going to be relatively mild, and we are dry. It has been a dry stretch for many areas, so we have fire weather concerns. The National Weather Service has put fire weather watches out for a good chunk of northeastern Colorado, and it does include all of Metro Denver, all the way up to Fort Collins, and some of the adjacent foothills. Looking south, we also have a fire concern from Pueblo to Trinidad and on the adjacent plains. What this means, if a fire were to start in these areas, it could potentially spread quickly. I'm zooming into the Front Range Futurecast only on Saturday because I want to point out a couple of things. We've mentioned the wind, but notice the precipitation in the mountains. It stays there for the most part. It's a westerly to northwest flow. A few of those showers may try to roll off the foothills and onto the plains, and that's what you're seeing here on Futurecast. You see just a few little green blips here and there, even a little yellow in spots because of the instability that will be present with this weather system. We are at the time of the year to start talking about thunder showers, so it would not be entirely possible to rule out a clap of thunder somewhere. If you live in Denver on the I-25 corridor or the eastern plains, precipitation is not the headline for Saturday. It is the wind, but just in case you get a stray sprinkle or a little quick passing shower, that is what's happening. Here's the forecast for today. Breezy at times, near normal in Denver. We should be in those upper 50s, and it looks like we're going to land there before all is said and done. Same story for all of the eastern plains. In fact, a few places could even crack into the low 60s. High country, of course, you're cooler because of your elevation, but you also have clouds on the increase with this approaching weather system. Western slope ranging from the 40s in places like Craig to the 50s in some valley areas such as Grand Junction. Breezy but dry tonight in Denver. We should fall to around freezing. Mountain snow will arrive after midnight, so should you be doing any overnight travel, you will certainly have that to contend with on your journey. Looking for lows on Saturday, I should say, to start off pretty typical for this time of the year. A lot of 20s and 30s showing up on the map, mostly 20s in the high country. Mid-20s to low and mid-30s on the eastern plains. Notice the western slope, Grand Junction. It's entirely possible you could hang around 40 for an overnight low, which is relatively mild for this time of the year. In Denver tomorrow, our main story is the wind. It will turn quite windy. We have a fire weather watch. Fully anticipate that being upgraded to a warning. Clouds are going to increase around 64 for a high. You see that wind, west-northwest, possibly 20 to 40 miles per hour at times. Eastern plains, the wind coming off the foothills, that is a down sloping wind, and you throw a little physics in there, you get compressional warming. So 60s and 70s on the eastern plains tomorrow. The Arkansas River Valley could hit the low 70s and mid 60s from Denver out to the northeastern corner. You can see why we have fire weather concerns. 40s in the high country with 30s above 9,000 feet. The western slope, you should top off somewhere in the mid 50s to low to mid 60s for a high temperature. Let's look at this extended forecast for Metro Denver, and it is a climb here. You notice the temperatures, once we move past this weekend, will flirt with the upper 50s, low 60s, which is pretty common for this time of the year. That ridge of high pressure we mentioned when I was showing you the jet stream, that takes hold starting Monday. Temperatures take a pretty big jump. We'll be up somewhere around 70. We're going to be there again on Tuesday, and then as we hit Wednesday into Thursday, we're talking mid to upper 70s in Denver. Good chance we'll even see some 80s out on the eastern plains, or somebody close to 80 at least. You'll certainly be looking for some of that spring attire as we roll into next week with a long stretch of warm and dry weather coming up. Not the best news for things like snowpack. We do not like to see warm weather in late March. Sometimes that can start the snow melt process. Late March, early April is a very important time for snow accumulation in the high country. So let's cross our fingers that we get just this little taste of spring. We can all get outside, enjoy a few days, and then we get back to some active weather and get some snowfall coming into Colorado's high country. Well, that is the latest, a deep dive into your forecast. You'll have more updates later in the evening from meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen. Have a great weekend. I'm Chris Spears. Thanks for watching.